Welcome back to Sunday Supplement. Such a big game, isn't it, in the Premier League this afternoon? Live on Sky, of course, both games, starting with City against Spurs. And Sean, it's a match really that sort of gauges Spurs. How far have they come? How good they are? I think that Van der Vaart's on record in one of the papers this morning saying, we'll know whether we can win the title today.
I think they should believe in themselves a bit more. I always get the feeling with Spurs, when they get a win, they go, yeah, maybe we can challenge for the league. And then when they lose or when they get a draw, they go, well, it wasn't really realistic. We probably couldn't win the league, you know. And Harry always goes, well, really, we're just aiming for the top four. And I feel that I live in an area of lots of Spurs fans, and they're pretty much the same. We can't really win the league. They're enjoying winding up top Arsenal fans at the moment, but there's not even the belief among supporters that they can win the league. There's wouldn't it be amazing if we did? But actually, you look at their squad and their depth of the squad, and Henry was referring to Liverpool before, they probably do have, they're better in depth, Tottenham, than say Liverpool. Yeah. And you think, why can't you win the league? You can't say Man United are in fantastic form. I wouldn't even say City are in fantastic form. So why can't Spurs do it? And if they believe in themselves a little bit more, I think they really could have a go at it.
Gary Neville did an interesting piece in the Mail on Sunday in his column there, where he picks his players of the season at this stage of the season. He's got a few Spurs players in there, like Ledley King. I mean, if Ledley King was fit week in, week out, he'd probably have about sort of 70 caps, 80 caps for England. I think one issue they've got today is they're going to miss Emmanuel Adebayor, because he is the striker who makes that front six click, because you can play Modric and Van der Vaart often. You can play the two wide players in Bale and then have Parker in there. I think if you play Defoe up front, I know he's played it with Van der Vaart just off him in the past, but it doesn't sort of click so well. I think that's... I don't know.
Do you know when the last time Spurs lost the league game?
Look at Kyle Walker. Kyle Walker has been terrific. Ledley King's been terrific. Yunus Kabul, who's not in there, obviously, because he's got Vincent Kompany, who's the best centre-half in the country at the moment. Kabul has been terrific as well. Asu Okoto has had a terrific season. I mean, everyone talks about Spurs' front six, which are terrific. Friedel's been an outstanding signing in goal as well, all that experience. So, you know, it's not simply about this sort of attacking football they've got. They've got a good defence as well, but they will miss Adebayor hugely today.
Yeah, he's the focal point. What's interesting with King, as I was going to say, do you know the last time Spurs lost a league game when King played?
You're going to tell us.
It was August. Not last August, the August before that. August 2010 was the last time that King was on the losing side in a league game.
What was the score?
They lost 1-0 at home to Wigan.
Who scored it?
Modelago, I think. But that's because he's only played 15 games since then. You know, that's the difference. But he has played 11 this season, which is and in those 11 games he's played, when he's been on the pitch, they've conceded 6 goals only.
What have you made of this war of words?
Interested in that.
War of words that's gone on.
I think it's important
between the two managers.
Well, look,
Mancini there, everyone's jealous of us.
Well, they are.
Yeah.
That's all right. It's allowed, isn't it? We're all jealous of them. We'd love them, you know, whoever you support, you'd love the money Manchester City have, and I don't think there's anything wrong with Harry Redknapp saying that. I think he was perhaps went a little bit far when he said to the press the other day, you lot could manage them as well and probably win the league title. Possibly, but it might be.
Well, you've got to get the players in the first place.
Disrespectful to Mancini.
He actually said it to the captain of the press team on the back of a very humiliating... He said it to Sam Wallace of the Indy. He said, you could manage them. He obviously hadn't seen the last press game when you lot were complete shambles.
But, you know, Harry is right. But Mancini is obviously doing a reasonable job at City, but I don't think many of us think he's a genius.
He's doing well.
At the moment.
But I think this is a little bit Kenneth Williams, isn't it? Infamy, infamy, you've all got it, infamy. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous.
I think part of it is on the back of the imaginary waving of the cards, which I don't, you know, clearly all managers are going to be asked about, and Mancini's got to cut that out of his game because it's a little bit embarrassing. I quite like what Redknapp said he'd do this afternoon if Mancini does that. He said, I'll just set Joe Jordan on.
Jordan on him. Yes. which was sorted out completely.
It worked with Gattuso.
Yes,
look,
exactly.
What you have to say with City this season is that what we were all crying out for all of last year is for them to be more ambitious and adventurous, is what they have been all season. That's why they're top of the league, because they've gone to win every match rather than draw.
Well,
I think it's, you know...
They got a bit shaky, I thought, against Wigan.
Yeah, because they've had a bad...
And he's putting on to, you know, looking to shore it up maybe at 1-0.
But you were there, weren't you? I mean, I was there, and I was thinking, this is just the type of game that wins titles.
Yes, I understand
1-0, ground out. Everyone talks about toothless Wigan. So the second half, Wigan had a real go. You know,
they did.
You know, they just lack of finisher. And that is, that was an important win for City. That, they were missing company, they were missing Yaya Toure, who's been terrific.
They
for
miss
them.
him a big time.
He's huge, in every sense. He's defensively, he's important at corners. He scores goals. He's just got that energy. He actually looks a lot fitter now, a lot leaner than when he arrived. So that's a sort of credit to Mancini. But I think Mancini's been great for football. I think the attacking football.
You're doing this again. I didn't say he wasn't. I'm just saying I don't think we think he's a managerial genius yet. Do you know what I mean?
He's doing a good job. He's managed his resources very well, and they're going to win the league. I think.
You have to see if he can, win Champions Leagues and stuff before you say, hey, he's brilliant.
I think of his buys over the last year, you wouldn't question too many. I mean, Aguero's been good, but then as Harry says, everyone knew that Aguero would be good. Dzeko, there were a few doubts about. He took time to settle in, but then, Spurs found out last time he scored four goals against them. David Silva obviously is an outstanding player. But what I think has been interesting is the impact that he's had on other players. I think Micah Richards has been terrific. I know Capello always goes, rolls his eyes about the defensive issues, but I think Micah Richards has been good this season. I think James Milner in some games, and Gareth Barry, and everyone remembers Gareth Barry and Mesut Özil in the World Cup, but Gareth Barry's having a good season. So I think he's having an impact on the sort of,
Just go back to this, you mentioned the waving of the imaginary card. We don't like that. I mean, he shouldn't do it.
We had a debate the other day about whether there was any difference between whether he was waving an imaginary yellow card or waving an imaginary red card. I just think both of them. I just think it's beneath him. And he apologised the first time, and it was disappointing to see him doing it again and again. I actually think the League Managers Association should have just a quiet word with him.
Because we criticise players for doing it on the pitch, and here's someone setting the wrong example.
Yeah, I mean, just why do it? I mean, it's disrespectful to your peers.
Yeah. Interesting when he was talking about having a B team as well, that Mancini, that... I mean, where do you think that would fit in?
Well, that was more sort of Andre Villas-Boas. I'm sure Mancini, like some of the, a lot of the foreign managers have suggested it in the past. I think a B team, I think that's just incredibly disrespectful to, the 72 Football League clubs. If Manchester City are saying, and I don't think they are, they're saying, actually, we'll take over Stockport and put all our good kids in there. What happens if you get drawn against each other in the Cup? What happens if that team gets promoted and then suddenly all the players who got you up then get drafted back into the first team in Manchester City?
Yeah.
It won't work. I know it works in Spain to a certain extent, but they don't have the history.
An under-21 league with, say, perhaps 3 overage players that you need to bring back to fitness or something like that, or who are out of form or whatever, I think makes more sense. Midweek, maybe. I think you'd go along and watch, wouldn't you?
You'd be interested because you get a look at players.
Get a look at new players. And as I say, you could play some of the other players as well if need be, and in a proper league format would work. Because I think everybody accepts that reserve team football as it stands at the minute, it's a bit of a mishmash. It used to be really exciting, but about 30 years or whatever, you used to go along and watch reserve games on a Saturday afternoon. If your team was away, you'd watch them at home and there'd be big attendances.
I used to go to reserve games on Wednesday afternoons when on my first days at the Sun. Great for contacts, managers there, scouts there. I mean, no agents, of course. No.
But I used to go Saturday afternoons to St James's Park to watch Newcastle United reserves, and there'd be reasonable crowds. I mean, I'm talking 10,000 people turning up to watch games. Nobody can imagine that now, but you did used to get that. And it would be great to be able to recreate that, I think. It'd be nice.
This headline, that is it inevitable, do you think, that Bale will go in next summer? I mean, there's so much speculation.
It's inevitable he will go eventually.
But why is it?
When.
Why is it inevitable?
No, I think he will, because he will not stay at Tottenham forever. But he's only 21. I think he will go in 2013. I think that's when he'll go.
What date?
Obviously, July the 1st. Everyone knows
Morning
that.
or afternoon.
But he'll go. So give it this season.
But if
and one more year, because then
if they're Premier League winners,
but
challenging, why would you want to leave?
Because he wants to play for one of the great clubs of the world, and much as I would love to place Tottenham in the same bracket as Barcelona and Real Madrid, I also live in the real world, and they're not. He is coveted by every major club on the planet, because he's good enough to play for every major club on the planet. And at some point, when it's right, not when it's not right, but when it's right, he will make the jump. He's very lucky. He's got fantastic family background who are very, very determined and do ensure that his feet remain entirely on the ground. And that's why he's been a success as a player. Because when he had a bad time, he had people he could trust and rely on at home. when he's having good times, he's got people to tell him, wait until it's right.
Paul Hayward in my paper, The Telegraph, did a very good interview with him. And what came over with Bale, which anyone who's spoken to him knows this, and Redknapp and all the other coaches at Tottenham always say this, just alluding to what Laptop's saying, is that he does have his feet on the ground. He's pretty grounded. He's not going to, I mean, I agree with you, at some point he will go for huge money, probably abroad. But he doesn't give the impression that he wants to run away.
No.
Yet he's enjoying what's going on at Tottenham. Harry's given him slightly more licence this season to come inside. You saw it particularly at Norwich when he came inside and he made all those runs through the middle. So he's a fabulous talent. It'd be interesting to see the type of headlines and the type of pressure that would be on him if he were English, because we'd have really.
That's true. And he's one of the players, Henry, who would have to perform today if Spurs are to win. And they need to win, don't they, today?
Do they need to win? Yeah, I mean, everyone's saying,
they're going to win the title.
I think if they got a draw, it wouldn't be a terrible thing.
I think
they would if they won.
If you're a Tottenham fan heading up there now, I think you would take a draw.
Why?
Without Adebayor, what happened last time?
Yeah, no, I think to win the title they have to win.
Besides, do you think Tottenham can win the title?
This is the whole thing about believing. But this is the whole thing about believing in themselves.
Yeah.
You're going there with a Spurs fans attitude. Ooh, I hope we get a point. If you really want to win the league, if you really believe you can do it, if you really think you've got the players, and you've just told me they've got a strong squad in depth, then why can't you go to City and win? Why do you not believe
because
in
I think City's development towards a title-winning team is more developed.
From Spurs' point of view, though, you've got to believe you can win at City.
If Tottenham go to City and win, for the first time, I will believe they can win the title.
But you don't think they will?
But I think they'll lose. I also think
because you're a Spurs fan.
Yeah,
that's how Spurs
absolutely. But also, if you look at their the games they've got coming up, they play in the next month or so. They've got City, Arsenal, Liverpool, United. Yeah. If they emerge from that within 5 points, with 12 games to go, and only one difficult game being Chelsea, then you've got to think they're genuine threat. At the moment, I think they're playing for third. Them and Chelsea for third place.
Well, do you think they think that as well?
I think that's what they it's quite good for them to think that, because they're not under the same pressure.
Why are they not title? I don't get this. Everybody looks
because they haven't won the league since 1961.
I know, but
it's Tottenham.
And it's Tottenham. Somewhere. And everybody looks at Spurs and say they've got really good strength in depth. We always say that. So if you have really good strength in depth, and you went through their team before and you said, so a good Friedel, great signing, and all of this sort of stuff. Then why don't you believe they can win the league?
Do you think they're going to win the league? Do you think they're going to win the league?
Yes, if they believe in
themselves. Do you think they're
going to
win the league?
No, I believe they can win the league with a little more belief in themselves.
Only 2 points behind City if they win today. OK, today, prediction. Martin thinks Spurs will lose. That means City will win. Where do you think it's going?
I think it'll be a draw. I do. But I think Tottenham should have the belief in themselves to think they can win it. And I accept a draw would be a good result. But believe you can win it. You never know.
I think City will win. I just think that if you look at, I mean, it's fantastic what's happening with Tottenham. I think that if they finish in the Champions League position, if they finish third, and they don't have to pre-qualify, which is important given that it's going to be a very crammed summer because of the Euros, and they don't want a new Nazi situation that Arsenal had last year.
Wouldn't have
a very, very busy time.
And they lose Bale to the Olympics.
Yeah, which they would do.
And they lose Bale to the Olympics.
These
Olympics are really getting in the way. Is it too late?
I've only got 15 minutes left.
Is it too late to cancel the Olympics? Seriously, they are seriously getting in the way.
We've got Bex coming back for the Olympics. It'll be big. Everybody will get.
No, but look, they're playing wonderful football, and I'll tell you what, there are few better places to go than Tottenham on a night match, with the fans giving it all the taxi for Mike on and the noise and Bale running at it, and it's just a great place to go. So it's fantastic. So let us just enjoy it, and if they finish third, brilliant. That is a success for them this season.
No, it will be. But I'm inclined to agree with Sean, though, that they have to have more belief in themselves. Fans,
yeah, okay,
and also the players as well. But I do think City will win. But so no one's tipped Spurs. Okay, let's switch to the Emirates.